situations where you're probably having the crappiest day of your week or your month, right? And then we're the first people that you call. We're gonna update you.
Welcome to The Deep Dark, a business podcast where we ask seasoned minds to excavate their history, pulling out the best insights, the hardest moments, and yes, golden epiphanies. Somewhere in the stories and laughs, we all get a little smarter and feel a little better about our own business ventures. Remember, if it didn't hurt, it doesn't count. Your hosts are Chris Lyon and Tim Douglas at the Fidelis Creative Agency. So strap in and get ready as we plunge once again into The Deep Dark.
Have you ever wondered how to become a Toyota and Lexus off-road specialist in the USA's most populous city? Enter Duck, founder and owner of Duggy's Garage, Houston's premier Toyota and Lexus off-road specialist. Also joining us today is Fidelis' own co-owner and fellow Land Cruiser owner, Mark Douglas. Duck is going to educate us on how he started Duggy's Garage. Duck's goal is to get the customer to and from their destination seamlessly, in four-wheel drive, of course. So as you off-road, listen to this episode of The Deep Dark.
I'm Duck Wynn. I'm from Duggy's Garage, and welcome to the Deep Dark podcast.
Thank you, Duck. Appreciate it. Well, here we are. It's been a long road for a lot of us, man. No pun intended when it comes to Toyotas, right?
Absolutely.
We love our Toyotas. Hey, so let me in on what you do and what you own.
So we're an automotive shop, so we specialize in Toyota four-wheel drive cars. If you just kind of imagine your Tacomas, your 4Runners, your Land Cruisers. I'm a Land Cruiser guy deep down, and I'm passionate about it. I own two of them so far. I've probably owned 20 or so of them so far. So
wow.
Yeah, I love them, and I think that just kind of being the underdog of like the off-road world, I think it really I really gravitate towards it, and yeah, I mean, I think a lot of our clients are very passionate about their cars also, and they just become part of your family and just a trusted member of your family, and you go out there and it'll start every single time, and it'll get you there and get you back. So they are phenomenal vehicles, and I love them.
They are.
And not everybody knows how vast and how committed that whole Toyota subculture is, but it's big, and the fans are rabid fans, and they invest a lot of money in their setups. And you're in Houston, and so you're pulling from an enormous metropolitan area, so you're sort of uniquely situated in that Houston market, but you're actually a native Houstonian, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, and just to kind of bring another point on that is that in Houston we don't have any elevation, right? So there's not a lot of places to go off-roading in Houston, but we have a huge community and even segments of Toyota communities, the 4Runners, the Tacomas, the Land Cruisers, and even subsectors of that too, the 100 series, 80s, 60s. So, I mean, it's a very unique place to be. But I think that for us, I think as Houstonians, you're really used to kind of going out, doing your 4, 6, 10-hour drives to go out and go do cool stuff like Big Bend. But then there's other uses for these vehicles too. I mean, you go out and you go hunting, you go fishing, you go and kind of tend your land and kind of do whatever you need to. And these are utility vehicles that a lot of people use them for, kind of what they need.
That was a question I had as I was thinking about the podcast was, do you have a sense of like what the split or ratio is of people who say, I bring you my vehicles because these are my daily drivers versus those who go, hey, I got a new toy, a new thing that I'm putting a lot of money into because I just want to have it and it's not my daily driver. Do you have a sense of what that ratio might be?
Yeah, I mean, I think our core customers are people that drive them every day, right?
Okay.
Because I don't think a lot of people can afford a brand new 4Runner or a Land Cruiser and just kind of throw it out
100K.
there. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
But our core customer is somebody that what we consider an 80-20, right?
Okay.
80% highway, 20% off-road. Somebody that's going to take your car to parking at downtown Med Center, but still also want to go out and go do some cool stuff on the weekends.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
You know, it's a whole persona. So just a little background story. Before working with Fidelis. I was a client of Fidelis, so I had a business, and Mark was doing some brand work for me, and he got into this thing called archetype, and he said, so if you were a vehicle, what kind of vehicle would you be? And I said, oh, a Land Cruiser. And he goes, well, why a Land Cruiser? And I was like, man, you just take a beating and it just doesn't stop. You just keep moving forward, and it, no matter how ugly it gets, you can just keep going, man. I'm a Land Cruiser. Little did I know that he was a Land Cruiser guy too, right? And
That's awesome.
So there's a subcontext here of that. Do you feel the same way? I mean, is it part of who you are? Does it help build your persona? That's a crazy question. Only Land Cruiser people would understand that, but
I think so, right? I think the Land Cruiser is the jack of all trades, the Swiss Army knife of like vehicles, right? It has a third row seats, but if you put those third row seats down, you don't have any more space to put luggage in the back. But carry 7 people, carry your family, go out to go dinner.
yeah,
I mean, it has the best reliability out of any car, but it drinks gas, right? So like
it does.
it's like all of these things that you kind of you have to kind of pick and choose what's priorities to you. And I think again, it is the Swiss Army knife of
Yeah.
of the automotive world.
Yeah. So people right now who are going to listen in the future, they're going, wow, these guys are really connected to this Land Cruiser thing. But I want to hear the story. I want to hear the story. So how did you go about owning Duggy's Garage?
Duggy's Garage came out of really necessity.
Mm-hmm.
I was in corporate IT in oil and gas for 10 years. Got laid off in 2017 when, 2015 when things got pretty bad. I'm sitting on my couch watching Game of Thrones, and I'm like, man, what am I doing? I was trying to find a job, and then I reached out to the community and started working on community members' cars. And one car showed up, another car showed up, and then soon enough, I've got 7 cars in my driveway waiting to be worked on. And I'm getting HOA letters home, and I have a conversation with my wife, and I'm like, I think I need a shop. Man, initially, Dougie's Garage, I got the shop really to kind of work on my own stuff and really just kind of pay for itself and just to kind of work on my personal stuff. And it kind of morphed into the beast it is today. And I think it's pretty cool. I mean, it's been a journey, and I've learned so much from this kind of journey.
I think it's kind of cool that you went from IT to being a gearhead.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of people probably don't know that with Dougie's Garage, the guy that owns it is actually a mechanic, right? Yeah. So many times people buy a franchise or what, they don't understand it, but you love working on Toyotas, Land Cruisers specifically.
Yep. I absolutely do.
Yeah. Wow.
And do most of your customers come through referral? That's how I landed at Dougie's. Was Mark over at Capture.
Right.
Okay. He and I were talking
Yes.
100 series stuff, and he's like, if you need anything done, go find Dougie's in Houston.
Before you told me that, he and I were out hunting, and I said, who did your Land Cruiser? And he was like, Dougie's in Houston. And then little did I know that there was more than one person over at Capture and it just started to grow, right? So
That's awesome.
you have a cult following going on here, man.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, a lot of our referrals come in through neighbors, people that work with each other. I mean, we hear that story all the time. I didn't know this particular referral came from another marketing firm?
Yeah.
No, they're
engineering.
Software.
Yeah, customized software.
Awesome.
And they're a great company. They're a client of ours, in fact. And you'd probably be able to shop talk with them quite a bit with your background.
Awesome.
I'm surprised that Mark didn't try to recruit you, but yeah, as it goes. Not this Mark, that Mark, but yeah. So you started this business. How? Tell me the story. So was it a rough go at the beginning?
It was scary, and I got into it. We opened up the shop.
Yeah.
And I was moonlighting, pulling 18-hour days, working my day job. Kind of dressing up in a button-down shirt and slacks, and going straight to the shop, bringing my dirty clothes that I had to change into.
Yeah.
So I was basically living like 2 lives, right? My kind of my day job and then my night job. I attribute it to a lot of, just kind of making sure that this thing was going to work, and just kind of making sure that I gave it my all, and that I could put out a good product for the customers also.
Right. Well, that's being pretty disciplined to be able to do two things at once like that. Did you just keep that vision in your head? How did you drive yourself? What was the big motivator?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I had a single motivator. I think my motivation was just to do a good job and just put my head down and just get into the day-to-day grind, right? I didn't really envision Dougie's Garage kind of getting this big, but to me, it kind of naturally got this way. I surrounded myself around with a lot of really good mentors, and I really kind of give a lot of credit to those folks that have kind of been along my side, told me a lot of hard truths along the way also, and kind of helped me correct the ship as we needed.
How'd you find your mentors? Were they people in your industry? Are they family? How did you come across them?
Yeah, so I have a friend. He's actually an Aggie, and I learned a very big lesson from him, and it's one of the reasons why we're the specialists that we are today. He asked me to work on a Nissan 240SX, an old kind of
I had one.
Yeah,
I did.
and it was like a 1989.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm one of the best techs out there. I can figure this out. It had an issue. It had a big turbo on it, and he couldn't get it running right. I was like, yeah, drop it off. I can figure it out. This is no problem at all. Car ended up sitting in my garage for 3 months. Couldn't figure it out, and I got to a point where I had to basically say, like, I had to put my ego aside and basically say, like, hey, I'm at a point where I'm kind of out of options at this point. And, it really kind of taught me to stay in my lane and do things that you're really good at. Deliver a great product, but do things that you're good at and you're knowledgeable at. It also taught me how to handle these type of situations where you're like, hey, you've got this car pretty much torn apart. What are you going to do about this? So he and I, we figured out kind of a solution to get this car to a different shop, somebody that's better, well suited in tuning these type of vehicles. It ended up needing fuel management. It needed injectors. It needed kind of like a full blown tune. Where I was just kind of going into it. I was like, oh yeah, I just need spark plugs and some ignition coils and some wires, right? And yeah, it was a very, very big learning lesson to kind of stay in your lane and figure out what you're really good at and stick to it.
So he became your mentor after that?
He's still my mentor now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. What does he tell you? Give me a hard truth. What does that mean?
Well, I'll tell you what he told me last week is don't suck. I was at a track driving event, and I'm trying to break a personal best for just kind of on road road racing, and yeah, it's just don't suck. But I'll give you another tidbit that he told me kind of early on in Dougie's Garage is burn the ships.
Love that.
That's when I quit my job.
Yeah.
Burn the ships. You got no other options but to succeed.
I say that quite often.
Yep.
Yeah, no turning back now.
Nope.
We're in it.
Yep. We're going to war, boys.
That's it. There's no. It's funny when he said that. You said don't suck. What did suck? What was the toughest part of your journey so far?
I think the toughest part of my journey was really just getting out of my own way and really just kind of entrusting people, bringing the right people into Dougie's Garage. I think my first hire as a technician, hiring a technician out to work with me while I was moonlighting was probably one of the scariest things because I had such a, just a high expectation on quality and the way certain things should be done. And hiring somebody out and really trying to transferring that type of mindset to another person was very difficult for me. I think that in just kind of thinking about business owners, we have to, it's hard for us to relinquish control, right?
Right.
And I think that was probably one of the hardest things for me. And just throughout the years, I've had to constantly kind of fire myself from certain positions. And I think probably the biggest lesson is just getting the hell out of the way and just letting other people succeed in their positions that they're probably better than you at.
Right.
So trusting those who are trustworthy.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So you guys have, 10, 12 employees now? It's like a pretty good size team.
It's not that big. We've got a manager, service advisor, and 4 technicians. So including me, it's 7 of us.
7, okay.
Yep.
And you guys are kind of maxed out at your current location and are actually planning on building in the middle of the building process now, hoping for January of 2024. Okay. And where were you going to be?
Yeah, we're putting that data out into the world now. So that's what you're saying, huh? Yep. So we're building a new shop. Property has been acquired. We're going through a full renovation process now. We'll have 5,000 square feet of showroom space.
Showroom space. Wow.
Yeah. So we'll be able to display vehicles in there. My goal is to really kind of hold social events there, and we'll have, we'll just play like cool movies like the Fast and the Furious, and just have people come over and have coffee and beers, and just kind of have a really cool space for people. And we'll conduct business there, and then we'll have a 6,500 square foot shop space that will be fully lit, basically mental asylum bright in there, so the technicians can see what they're working on, and basically, it'll be a beautiful shop.
That's awesome.
We're building what I like to call a garage mahal. So
that's a great term.
Yeah.
Y'all syncing up here? And
Yeah.
Garage mahal.
So,
wow.
So as you look future, and you're going to be at a new location, but the nature of vehicles is changing with the electrical, the transition to electric vehicles, and we know that there's new product line coming down the way from Toyota and Lexus. What are you foreseeing as big opportunity? Not being part of the dealership model, being able to do it, but still be niched out as Toyota Lexus. How bright is that future?
I think it'll probably get brighter, and it's probably a hot take with the electrification of vehicles. I think a lot of those vehicles are kind of used as, maybe tool is the wrong word, but it's just another part of your daily life, right? To get you from point A to point B. But you look at the old vehicles, and why do we enjoy them? Because we love driving. We love the connection with the steering wheel, the way the tires, the sounds it makes, right? The clunks and the rattles. And you look at old Porsches and you look at old Toyotas, and they're still around. I think old gearheads and old petrol heads, we're always going to be around, right? Maybe all of us will own an electric vehicle, but I think we'll all still also own gasoline vehicles also.
Right. There's something romantic about it. I know that's a tough thing to say with three dudes sitting around a table, but it is. There's something romantic about it when you look back at it and say, man, the stories that this vehicle tells as compared to, I went 5 miles down to the office, sat there in a cubicle for 8 hours and 5 miles back every day. Yeah. There's something about it. Did there ever come a point in time when something failed where you said, I don't know if I'm going to make it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't care how good of a technician you are. There's going to be a situation where you mess up on a car. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, whether it be that, you fixed a leak and the leak was still there. And that's one of the lessons that I learned early on is it's not about what happened, right? It's about how you handle it afterwards. And I think that in today's world, that the aftercare service is almost non-existent in almost in all of our interactions that we have with certain companies, right? In the companies that we deal with nowadays, it's click this button, return it, drop off here, and there's really no human interaction. Press 0 to get to an operator, and the person on the other line doesn't care. And I think that just because that's missing in today's world, that if we can at least try to attain a little bit of that I think we succeed. The human and person-person interaction.
That's right.
Of if something breaks down, you're halfway across the country in your car, and if we're the first people that you call, I think we're in a good situation, right?
Yeah, I've got to, and I'm not just doing that because you're sitting across from me. The customer service was, man, it was the best. It was really, you walk in and you didn't feel like a number. Right. Everybody treated you as if you were, and when I went in, I said, hey, I'm not the best at this. I'm going to lean on you. And they were happy that, I'm a neophyte gearhead as compared to them. And that's great. But they really were wonderful. And then every time I called, man, within seconds, they either called back or I was getting texted, or I felt like, that I knew that person. So another kudo to you that this is weird because you went, I don't know if people pick this up, but when you go to your Instagram page, where I'm sure that, I don't know who's doing your work, man, but it's great. Yeah. It's great. The thing that gets me is that every time you show your technician working on something, all 4 of them, as you said, they're always smiling. Now, I know that's not true all the time, but it seems like they're having a great time with what they're doing. And you're like, wow, if you're having a great time with what you're doing, I'm not scared to give you this vehicle that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that, I had a meeting with my whole team at the beginning of this year, and our goals were, one, to take care of the customers, and that was a really big push for us this year, but two, to take care of our employees. We work Monday through Thursday, as you probably know.
Right.
And that was one of the biggest pushes because, for me, my whole team, they love to go off-roading. They love to have their, love to have their time off. And I think that's one of the things that, as a respect to the team and really just kind of getting them their time off and respecting that, I think was a huge push in really kind of getting them on board with kind of figuring out how are we going to take care of our customers? How do we go above and beyond for our customers? And a lot of that really just kind of came along naturally in just kind of writing and steering the ship in the right direction afterwards. But yeah, we made a huge push to take care of our clients and take care of our employees because, man, without them, Duggy's garage is nothing.
Doesn't exist, right?
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
feel the same way around here. Yeah.
You had a probably a little bit more pleasant first interaction experience walking in the shop than I did. I walked in and made an idiot out of myself. I was directed to you because I have that 2001 Lexus LX 470, and I was trying to delete the entire automatic height control suspension thing. That's a joke, and I can't believe they put it in. And what on the phone, I just called and said, can you just delete the whole system and just put Land Cruiser suspension back in? And you or somebody on the phone was like, yeah, we do that all the time. And so I said, great. So I came in, dropped it off. And as I'm walking in, I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, I probably also need an oil change. And there's something with the cooling system. And so I asked whoever was at the front desk, I think it was Dan, I said, can you guys point me? I need a really good Toyota full service shop because I have some other things not suspension related. And I think Dan was like, yeah, that's us. And I said, no, I know you guys do all the suspension. You put the cool toys on and lifts and all that, but I really just need something more on the automotive side. And he was like, yeah, that's us. And so he was real cool about it, but I felt like such an idiot. I had no idea what I was walking into.
I think that's probably our fault, right? Because our Instagram kind of captures the sexy, the cool,
the big
lifestyle,
upgrades. Yeah.
But it doesn't really capture the kind of the baselining of the vehicles. Before you get into the fun stuff, you need to kind of take care of the baseline, take care of the vehicle, and then you can get into the fun stuff. So I take full fault of that. But yeah, I mean, that's really our job. And that's, kind of the maintenance OEM side is where we really excel at, right? I mean, I think the goal for every car to come in, depending on what your uses are with the vehicle, is to get you there and get you back, right?
Right.
So not only the gear, the suspension, the bumpers, and everything else, that stuff's cool, but you need to take care of the vehicle, the engine, transmission, and fluids, and everything else needs to be handled to get you there and get you back. But because then you'll just be stuck on the side of the road with some cool parts on your car.
Right.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. But I think that your team articulated that to me specifically, right? And I said, here's the deal. I need to be safe. That's number one. And I know that I've put this thing through the ringer. I said, here's number two. That AC's got to go, man. It's 108 degrees outside. I need help. And I was like, and I said the same thing you did. I was like, do I need to take it? No, we do the AC. Yeah. It's like, really? So the whole thing, yeah, top to bottom, man, got it.
Well, hopefully as I walked in, you didn't see my forehead. You were looking at my forehead to see if it was glistening. I drove an hour and a half here. So the AC is phenomenal now. So,
awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really good. No, but you do a great job. I'm sure that Instagram is, I mean, I watch it and I see the people making comments, but the thing that gets me is that both Mark and I are willing to drive an hour plus, in order to get somebody to take care of it. There may be somebody local, I don't know, would never check it out, but just because of the referrals that were coming in that said, hey, they'll do you the right job, and do it right, and that was cool. Yeah. We're talking about these mentors and that you have a bunch of mentors as you grow this business and you're scaling it, and pretty soon you're going to have more technicians and all that's going to happen. What is what these mentors, what's the biggest truth about scaling a business that they've told you as you've grown it?
Oof. I'm part of a mastermind group also.
Okay.
I'm part of Shop Fix Academy. There's just a wide berth of people that are in that group. You've got people that are just kind of starting off, and then you've got people that have 6, 7, 8, 9 shops. I
Wow.
think,
Yeah.
I think the truth that I really kind of gravitated towards was, your first shop is always going to be the hardest. Your second shop's going to be even harder. But then after that, you've got all your processes, you got all your vendors, you got everybody kind of figured out and kind of on your team. But I think that mountain that you have to climb to kind of get to that point is probably the hardest.
It's like having kids.
Yeah.
From 1 to 2, real tough.
First one's really tough.
Yeah.
Second one's really tough.
Actually,
yeah.
I got tricked. My first one was phenomenal. He was easy. He was an angel. We were like, oh man, this is so easy. We can do this. We had our second kid. It's a tornado inside my house every day. But they're awesome.
Yeah, mine was opposite. My first kid, I don't know how many times we went to the emergency room with him. He was all boy, and I couldn't stop him from being all boy. He would figure out ways of getting hurt. But yeah,
It's crazy.
absolutely. So what does the future look like? Where are you going from here? Are you going to put in a second shop after this one's up?
Yeah. So after this one goes up, I think in 2 or 3 years, we've got enough space on the property to build another shop. We get asked constantly from Land Cruiser owners and everybody else that owns a Toyota that we work on, hey, will you work on my Suburban? Will you work on my Yukon? Will you work on my other cars?
Right.
And I hate to turn them down, so we're going to open up another automotive shop and kind of serve our general community within our vicinity. So that's going to be the next step.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I think it's we're kind of getting into a different segment of clients also. So I think that if we kind of transfer our processes, we're probably 60% there, but that last 30 or 40% is going to be very tough for us. So
right.
But yeah, that's the next move.
Great.
That's cool.
What's the biggest thing that succeeded? If you were the mentor, you're going to tell somebody, what's the biggest thing that you'd say, hey, this is success, try this?
I think taking care of your customers. Taking care of your customers has always been at the core of what we do. We've made a huge push for it this year, but I think that as long as people are taken care of and they know that you're going to be there, I think every business is going to succeed. Right. I mean, without your customers, you're nothing. Right. But I think that as long as you take care of your customers, do the right thing, it's never going to come back to bite you ever.
Yeah.
Right. So if I ever had any advice for anybody, if they even were to ask me, then yeah, I think that would be it. Take care of your clients.
So I've got to know, it's got to be conscious, or maybe you just hired people that it's a natural, but the communication process, almost over communicating, right? Which is great. We know in our business, the more we communicate and have relationship with somebody and let them know that they're truly top of mind. Did y'all put that into a process, or did you just hire the right people?
I think, yeah, we put it into a process for sure.
Yeah.
I have a saying that you snitch on yourself before you can get snitched on. And we have a thing called a no update, right? So I'll give you an example. God forbid, right? But then you're broken down on the side of the road, you don't know what's going on with your car. We call a tow truck for you, right? And it's 10 o'clock, car gets to the shop. You don't get that phone call until 2 o'clock the next day. But during this whole process, you don't know what's going on. You're like, in your head, you're basically thinking, oh man, is this going to cost me $100? Is this going to cost me $1,000 or a few $1,000s? What is this going to cost me? Right? So our no update is basically updating you to tell you, hey, we haven't got to your car yet, or hey, technician's looking at it right now, or whatever information it might be. What we found is customers are not willing to wait for information. They are willing to wait for the repair. But information is the absolute top of mind, especially in those situations where you're probably having the crappiest day of your week or your month, right? And then we're the first people that you call. We're going to update you.
I think all businesses need to learn that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we need to institute the no update. That's
great.
pretty good. I like that. I really do. I go back because in the businesses that we've been involved in and that we help here, plus the ones I've started, other ones, there does come a moment though, and usually it's about the 5-year mark, right? How long have y'all been around now?
Almost 7 years.
7 years, where there is this time at the 5-year mark where you're going to make it or break it, right? Either it's going to go down or you're going to keep going, right? The magic moment.
Yeah.
But with it comes an epiphany. Right, just an incredible epiphany of what you've been doing and how it all comes together. And for some reason, I don't know what it is, muscle memory, things just start to jive. What was your big epiphany at the 5-year mark when you went, oh, this is going to happen? I can feed my family.
Oof, that's a good question. I would probably say that getting Michael, our advisor, in, and then getting Dan, our general manager, in to run the shop and build that culture properly and get their mindset correct so they can run the day-to-day activities of the shop, and me be able to go out and think about what do we need to do for marketing, what do we need to do for social media, what do we need to do for the new shop, how are we going to get this money, kind of run the business and really just not be working in the day-to-day activities. There were really hard days where I was the general manager, and a lot of other stuff kind of pitter-pattered, and I'm having to kind of take care of a lot of stuff in the shop. But now my the mindset and really just kind of figuring out what is the direction of this whole ship and where are we going to take this thing, and trusting people to take care of the day-to-day activities, I think it was probably the biggest epiphany that I've had within the shop.
It allows you to get your eyeballs up off of the day-to-day and see a horizon. Where do we need to go?
Yep.
Yeah.
What's really there's a parallel here with the Toyota getting fixed. It takes about 5 years to get all the things running so you get safe from point A to point B. So everything goes, especially in a business. But there does come that point in time in that business where you get to actually drive, right? And it's time for me to drive this thing. I've got it all put together. Everything's working great.
Yeah.
It'll actually stop. The brakes are on. And, so, that epiphany is a big thing. And what's really different with a business that I found through time is that's when the revenue really starts, that 5-year mark. All of a sudden it starts to compound.
Yep.
And you're there and you're like, well, what changed? I was working twice as hard before, but now for something is going different, right?
Yeah. I mean, you look at it as revenue, and you could stay stagnant, right? But then you start looking at numbers, and then your gross profit numbers improve, and then your net profit numbers improve, and then your team is making money. Everybody's making money, and the shop can pay for itself. And that at that point, you're like, oh, all right. You could have huge top line numbers, but then if your bottom line numbers don't mean anything, what are you doing this for?
Right.
So that was a big push in this year.
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah. So that was a big push, and just kind of freeing up my time. And those are the things I kind of pitter pattered for a while. Like there's stuff like trash pickup. Like you're just overpaying for all this stuff. So it's like taking the time to renegotiate those terms and really just figuring out if you're doing the right thing here or not.
Yeah. So back to Land Cruisers for a minute. What's your favorite Land Cruiser you've ever worked on? What did you build when it left and you went, wow, I built that?
All right, I'm gonna put my flame suit on here. I think the 200 series Land Cruiser is probably the best Land Cruiser ever built. It fits a lot of the needs of everybody's lives. It's a great partner in your daily life. You can drive it to work, drive it back. You can take it on trips. Not going to break down on you. It's overbuilt. I have an 80 series Land Cruiser also. That thing you can take rock crawling. You can take it to any trail. No problem at all. It's got front and rear lockers on it. But try driving that thing 80 miles on the road. It's not doing it.
Yeah. That's right.
So it's a hot take. I don't know if I'm going to stir up a lot of drama on the internet. We'll see.
Yeah. What are you noticing in terms of trends about demand? Like, is it the 60, the 80 series? Like, what is the hot thing that if you can get your hands on one, you're probably going to overpay right now, but it's because it's huge demand.
The 40 series was a huge demand for a while, and I think it's gotten unattainable. But kind of the next best thing was the 60 and the 80 series. Those have driven up in value. I think there was a 32,000 mile 80 series that just sold for $120,000.
Wow.
Insane. But I think as the years go on, they get less boxy and boxy. And I think that's what a lot of people want to kind of get into the analog type of vehicles. They didn't have a lot of electronics in it. But the 60 series, I think, is in kind of like a real nice sweet spot right now to where it's still attainable and it's not, the prices haven't gone crazy on it.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think a lot of it. There was a huge Land Cruiser push here lately when that movie, the show, The Terminal List came out.
Yeah.
Right. And then I started looking around, and everybody had duplicated that vehicle in a number of different ways. And I was like, yeah, you're a Land Cruiser faker, man. You just, where did you get that? Because I saw them all over the place all of a sudden. I was like, I didn't know that there was that many Land Cruisers that were running around. Did you see a big bump when that happened too?
I think so. So I think Jack Ryan, right?
Right.
I think he actually attended one of our meetings, and I think he's an actual Land Cruiser owner himself. But yeah, I mean, I think that our clients have owned, if they've got a 60 series or 40 series, they've owned it for a really, really long time.
Yeah.
They're just kind of sat in their garage, and tires are dry rotted and brakes are no good anymore. And so they come to us, we refresh everything. But I think that as far as the 80 series go, there's been a pretty big push for those two, and the truth has kind of been exposed to the world of their capability and their ability to kind of do some rock crawling.
Yeah, there was that movie that came out the other day, Kandahar. Have you watched that movie?
Mm-mm.
And I won't spoil it for anybody, but dude's got to travel 400 miles in a Land Cruiser.
Oh, we probably made it there in like 3 hours then.
No, he ran into some obstacles. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
But, I'm watching that, and so now my whole family does it. Is we're sitting here watching a movie, and every time the vehicle shows up that's a Land Cruiser, the whole family says it at one time. Land Cruiser. Yeah, I mean I have brainwashed them well.
Good, you've ingrained them. I've ingrained my kids. I started at 6 months old, so they know.
That's awesome. That is, it's good stuff. What do you see as the trend moving forward?
I think the new Land Cruiser is probably going to be a pretty big hit, and the new GX. I think those are going to be a pretty big hit. Again, I'm a pretty big Land Cruiser snob, and those are based on the Land Cruiser Prado generation. But I think Toyota is listening to their demographic. I think they're doing a great job in lowering the entry point into owning a Land Cruiser. The 200 series has become this luxury limo wheeler, right? So
they're so expensive aftermarket still that it's unbelievable.
I can't believe it. Yeah. It's insane.
I'm seeing them still out there, upper 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
And it's a 200 series that's, over 10 years old.
Yep.
With a lot of bumps and a lot of miles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's got a lot of stories on it for sure.
Sure.
But I think at the $60,000 entry point, I think that it's going to attract a lot of heads. I don't know what it's going to do with the 4Runner though, because it's kind of competing kind of at that same level, right? So we'll see what Toyota does with the new 4Runner. But the 4Runner was their best-selling vehicle for a really, really long time.
Yeah, I've got a 4Runner as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we're a Toyota family for sure, but it's actually 2014, and before they downsized the motor.
Yeah,
and I keep it just because of that. But even because I've got the more horsepower, it just seems to keep going up in value.
It drives well.
We have two 98 Gen 3 4Runners that the kids drive.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I took them to drop them off in college, and I'm like, this thing will last you all through college. Just keep the oil and the coolant. Just keep those two things in check.
Yep.
And you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Do the tires, do the brakes, and that's all you really need.
Yeah.
Right. And it's probably one of the safest cars out there. So yeah, I'll put my kids in a Toyota when they start driving also.
Mark, what drove you to the Land Cruiser immediately? I mean, at first.
I had a 60 series back in 2002. I had it for about 3 or 4 years. Loved it. It had serious rot issues on the frame. I bought it super cheap from a guy who had it as a hunting vehicle, but I loved it. Really loved it. And then there was a few years where I didn't have either one, and we just drove normal stuff. And the whole time I was thinking, as soon as I can like claw my way back to getting one, I'm going to do it. And so yeah, we now have the 100, the LX, and then those two of the 3rd gen 4Runners. I also have an old Volvo 240 wagon.
Yeah.
The old, and it's a 4-cylinder, and it's just everybody starts driving on the old Volvo wagon.
Oh, that's awesome.
And you have to drive it 1 year before you get to talk to me about anything else.
I love it. That's awesome.
It's fun.
I'm thinking that what we need to do is we need to go ahead and get a shop Land Cruiser, wrap that thing with Fidelis in it, right?
Okay.
And it's a write-off, right? We can figure out how to do that.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, it's a write-off.
It's a write-off.
Would you ever get another 60 series?
Oh yeah, sure. But at that point, it would be just because I want to have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
And it would just be, it's hard for me to convince my wife with all the kids in college that's what I need is another fun thing for me to think about.
Yeah.
No, I think that probably the next thing we'll do is the GX, the 2024. I'm hoping to get that for my wife so that we can just, my kids are in college up in Idaho. And so we make these massive road trips. So it has to be able to do that.
That car's going to be great for that road trip back and forth. That's probably a 24-hour drive?
Yes, it takes 2 full days. Wow. And that's pushing long drives.
Yeah.
It's funny though, the Land Cruiser you ride, it is passed down from generation to generation. People make fun of this with me, but I tell you, I think the Seiko is the best watch that was ever built. Yeah. Right. So I've got a number of Seikos, but as that happens, one of them's passed down, and you can't tell the difference between a Seiko dive watch, from generations past as compared to today. I kind of feel the same about the Land Cruiser. It's just it's a lifelong piece of equipment that you buy.
It's not throwaway equipment anymore. Everything we buy on Amazon nowadays is all throwaway, and if it breaks, you just throw it away and replace it. It's not a Land Cruiser. Yeah. Fix it.
So back to business for a minute, though, man. I want to talk about your brand, about Duggy's Garage. What does it mean to you?
Oh, man. It means everything.
Yeah.
Whenever I first started creating the name for the shop, I went through a number of, just kind of generic names. But for me, I wanted to put my name on something and just kind of stamp this thing. And I'm kind of putting this is my work out in the world. I think I find the most pleasure in Land Cruisers when we work on somebody's car and we're out at off-road events. And then we see our work on the trails, right? And then, I tell my guys this every day. I'm like, this is your work that you're basically putting on this car. And we go out to events like Toyota Jamboree, and then you're like, hey, I worked on that car. Hey, we actually built that whole car. And then you just kind of see the enjoyment of people's faces. Mm-hmm. Or whenever somebody goes out and is texting you along as you're coming, they're going to like Colorado, and you're like, hey, man, this new kitchen setup that we put in the car is so badass, right? Like, I love it. It works phenomenal. Yeah. And those are the moments that I kind of live for. And that's where kind of the name Duggy's Garage kind of came out of like, this is your work. You put a good product out there, you stamp it, and then you kind of let it be free out into the world. So
it's awesome.
It's awesome. It's great. Yeah. We do the same thing around here with our name. Most people think that we're just a group of Marines or something, and I don't know where they get that, because we're not. But you want to tell that story real quick?
Well, I mean, my grandpa was a Marine, and we there's some part of the blue collar ethos that comes out of South Texas farm and ranch community. I mean, Corpus Christi. But, Fidelis just means faithful. Mm-hmm. And like you were saying, like honoring your customer base. If we say we're going to do a thing, we're going to do the thing. If we can't do the thing, we're not going to say we do the thing. And not missing deadlines, and working with young talent across from the campus from A&M. We have a huge, amazing talent pool full of good, young, hardworking kids, and it's a lot of fun to build brands and build people. And so we don't have service techs that come to us through certification programs. We just have people that are coming from across the street at the university. And so we get to build into them, and that's what's a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, I mean, it does. It ends up meaning something to you. You know? There's an old cowboy adage: "Ride for the brand." Yeah. Ride for the brand, right? And there's something about that, right? So I'm glad that you're riding for the brand. But it was obvious that your folks are riding for the brand too.
Yeah.
They believe in it, and belief sells.
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't always this way, right? I mean, my team has been with me for a while, but we went through some rocky transitions also. But for me, I always felt, I guess starting off, I always felt the more effort you put in, the more output you got, but that was definitely not true. And as I tried to do everything myself, there would be another bridge that would fail on this side, but then this would be good, right? So just kind of making the push for our clients and our employees, and really just trusting people. Mm-hmm. I think what just really accelerated our brand and getting people behind and rallying the troops, I think was which I had to just trust people and just get the hell out of the way.
Right.
That was it.
Right.
Plus the cool bumper stickers with the hot pink.
Yep.
That was
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
I like it. I dig it.
Yeah. So as we're pulling this thing to the end, what do you want the world to know about Duggy's Garage, man? Yeah, tell us, give us the plug.
Oh man, I haven't thought about this yet. Man, Duggy's Garage, I think, is we're here for the people. I'm here for the conversations. I want to know what you use your car for. I want to know about your kids. And then we're going to build something that's going to work around your life, right? We need to put the correct set of rock sliders on. If you have a dog that has a bad hip, you have short kids that need to use it as a step. If we need to put a handle up top on your roof rack so you can get up there, how are you going to use this car? And are we going to build the car to suit your needs in your daily life? That's the most important part, right? So, because if I just go out and sell you a bunch of Walmart parts, it's not going to work, right?
Right.
You're going to be upset.
Yeah.
So that's...
Plus, you're going to waste your money and you have to do it again.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's our ethos.
Yeah.
Just making sure stuff works.
That's awesome. So all that in mind, what does the future look like? What is success for you? What's the end of the road or the big vision?
I think the end of the road is if we build all these cars and people go out and enjoy them, I think I'll die a happy man,
That's awesome.
And cars to me has always been something that just kind of transcends the daily lives and the news and all this stuff that's going on in the world. Like, we still have cars. We can still sit around a podcast and we still talk about cars and still nerd out about Land Cruisers and just be passionate about it. And it's just always about cars, right?
Yeah.
I'm a gearhead day in and day out. You guys are also. And I think cars hopefully will not become a lost art, and that we can become stewards of, just being petrol heads and being guys.
That's right.
America loves their cars. I hope that never goes away,
Yeah.
man. There's a love affair with vehicles, and it's awesome. It's great. It is.
Thank you for coming by today. We really appreciate it. It's been a good conversation.
It's a great conversation. Thank you.
Yeah.
By the way, Duck delivered my vehicle and almost an hour and a half away from that shop today, not just to be here. I think they probably would have done it anyway, but that's the kind of stuff that they do. And I just can't talk enough about it. I've been telling everybody, I was like, man, this is the first time I have not been angry at a mechanic, right? And I'm old, man, I'm gray. And I'm like, I think this is the first time in my life when I did it trusting. I just felt good. I was like, all right.
What do they say that you need a doctor, a lawyer, and a good mechanic on your side,
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
You always have to have one of those, one of each.
The first two I don't think I found really great yet, but we're good with Duggies at this point in time. Yeah. But I do appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time, and can't wait to let the world know who you are, man. That's
No
great.
worries.
Not that they already don't. It's you're getting to be quite the cult classic for sure.
Yeah, you're going to have to put a shop over here in Bryan College
That's
Station
right.
sooner or later.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Absolutely.
Well, thank
Take
you
care.
guys.
Thank you.